Audio Jungle.
Okay, so let's get this fact straight as our foundational knowledge. Linux is the basis of several free operating systems powered by open source technology and available in rich variants for download on the internet. It has successfully rivaled closed source operating systems such as Microsoft and Apple OS, which are very expensive to buy and maintain. Examples of Linux-based systems are Ubuntu, CentOS, or CentOS as you would want to put it, or might put it, Fedora, Ubuntu, Arch Linux, Debian, GNU, etc. They are all based on Linux kernel, which welds them together as very useful and powerful open source platform. Now, let's talk about the financial perspective. Extremely cheap to install and maintain. All over the world, several small, medium, and large enterprises have developed or adopted Linux operating systems since it's very cost effective. Now, let's talk about the internal process perspective. GNOME is one of the bundles that Linux operating systems comes with, which contains several useful desktops for writing and publishing calculations, presentations, drawings, just to mention a few, rather than procuring them separately. Now let's move to the customer perspective. Well community maintained and updated. It's very well competes and in most occasions outperforms closed source operating systems. Learning group perspective. Linux is also the basis for Android operating system, which makes it the reason why the mobile operating system is free and is being maintained by Google. Google, as a little compensation for its time in maintaining the mobile OS, uses the platform to market its products. Okay, so now here is the Linux variations in a single chart. You have the operating systems, the Linux kernels, then of course you have Ubuntu, Red Hat, Debian, Fedora, Arch, Poppy, OpenSUSE, Black Lab, Slackware, flavors and the like. Now, Netrunner, Slacker, POS, Mageia, PC Linux OS, Zorin, Boson Labs, Kubuntu, Majuro, Budi, Neptune, Kali, Solos variants, and so on and so forth. There's also, of course, the Kali Linux. Okay, now these are like just a short overview of the Linux variants and the flavor perspectives. You have the Debian Fedora. Debian is a Linux-based free operating system powered by Linux. It ships with over 45,000 software packages. Alternatively, Fedora is a Linux-based, of course, it's Linux-based with workstation, server, and atomic configurations separately. Linux makes one of the most beautiful, sleek, attractive, elegant, and strong variants of Linux-based operating systems. Ubuntu is one of the most popular, tried and tested Linux-based operating systems that handles Kubernetes, OpenStack, cloud computing, Internet of Things, lots software developer-friendly features. CentOS. This is a community-driven open source Linux-based operating systems that provides OS images for Google, Amazon, and a whole bunch of others. You simply go online and type Kali Linux download. Yeah, this is the website from Google search. Now you can choose the platforms. There are several platforms here that you can explore. Then of course you have GitKali, you have the blog, you have the documentation, you have the community, you have the courses, you have the developers, Git repositories and all that. It's a very exciting variant of Linux. So then you have the installer images, the virtual images and the likes. You have the ARM, you have the mobile, the cloud, the containers, the live boot, the WSL, the build scripts. Okay, so for this occasion, let's just go with this single or multiple boot Kali, giving you complete control over the hardware access, perfect for inbuilt Wi-Fi GPU, enabling the best performance. So now here you go, you have the installation documentation you can explore, always explore. Now these are little things you need to know about the Kali. Kali is a rolling Linux distribution, meaning as soon as we have an update, we ship it. Would-be users have a variety of images to choose from. For more information, please see which image should I download. Kali branches. For most users, we recommend the latest point release image below, except in cases when a user requires a specific bug patch, in which case the weekly build may be the best. So the point release is one I'm going to go for. Generate flash Kali Linux image files every quarters. Okay, so that's the update cycle. Okay, so this is it. You have the 64-bit, you have the, of course, 32-bit, then you have the Apple Silicon. So ensure you click on this, the 64-bit. You can download directly. This is about 3.6 gigabytes, or you can use the torrents. If you have a torrent client, just download through it, or the Sun. This one is the encrypted file, but I usually recommend either directly or through the torrent. So the moment you click on download directly, you're going to see it download straight on into your computer, and that is that. Okay, depending on the speed of your computer, it might just take a while to download. So with that done, once you download, the next thing you might want to do is download Rufus. That's Rufus. If it's for the Linux, it has both Linux and you can see the image there. It's used for burning. So once the ISO downloads, you can use Rufus with an empty available USB drive to burn the contents of the Kali Linux into a disk. So you will now you go to your BIOS, set the bootable as USB, because bootable always boot from the hard, depending on your preference. You go to the boot options, and then you select the USB to boot first. Thereafter, you restart the system with the USB inserted, and then you start the installation process. Set your boot device to the USB, the one that was just used to transfer the downloaded file from the official website. You insert it into your USB, and you set it as the first bootable device. Then once that is done, the next thing is for you to wait for the next sequence of steps. Now this is the stage where you see the options, the preset options for this variant of Linux. Alright, you have the graphical install, then you have the install, the advanced options, the accessible dark contrast installer menu, the install with speech synthesis. Now you also have the graphical expert install, the graphical rescue mode, automated install, expert install, rescue mode, automated install, and speech enabled advanced options. We're going to be focused on the graphical install. Okay, the very first one before this page. Yes, this one, the very first one here. The moment you select this, you're going to see a sequence of events or algorithms, okay? And that will bring us to this language section. Over here you see that there's a variety of languages to choose from. You just need to select the language that best fits your context or your environment, as the case may be. Okay, then here you have a location, just like I said in the previous video. There are several locations here that have been, selected or pre-selected as a list. So you select the location that best describes where you are. Yeah, then this is the keyboard. Usually the keyboard I'm using is the American English keyboard, so yours could be different. Ensure you select what best applies to you. Now I want to re-emphasize the importance of this stage. It's very important that you remove the USB stick and you insert it before you press yes option. Okay, like it is saying here, this is the area where the detection of the installation media is done, and it says your installation media will be mounted when installing from CD-ROM. This probably means that the disk was not in the drive, so if you can insert it, you can try it again. Okay, so retry mounting the installation media. Of course, make sure you select the yes option after you must have adjusted or inserted the USB installation media. You can see it's now scanning. Okay, so it succeeded, so it's now moving on to the next stage. Now this is the network area. Personally, I'll prefer to just skip this, and then sometimes depending on your hardware, you might have to install some additional files that are not included in the installation media. What I usually do when it comes to these stages, I ensure I select the no option so that I can skip to the next stage. Okay, then another important thing is the network configuration. You can always do this when the installation is complete, so you can move on to the next stage as well here. Now the reason why I clicked go back is that I don't want to waste time configuring the network at the moment, because it's optional. I can always do that, like I said, once the installation is complete. Yeah, this stage is the setting up for the user and password, so make sure you enter an appropriate user to identify the system. Now this is where you insert your password. Okay, it's always recommended, because sometimes or when the installation is complete, there will be need for you to use privileged administrative purposes. This is usually made or usually needed when you're running installation or updates, or that you want to probably make system-wide configurations. You might need to put in your password to authenticate that you are actually the one doing this. and you should also ensure that the same password is what you're typing in the first and second instances respectively. Okay, now here we are seeing that the installation is coming back to the network. This network is another different thing from the very first one. Okay, it says your system has multiple network interfaces. Choose the one to use as primary network interface during the installation. If possible, the first connected network interface found has been selected. What I usually do is I ensure to just skip it, instead of wasting time here. So I simply just go back, because when you start configuring this might take much time. So you go to the detect disks. That's the next stage when we're going to do the configuration of the partition and all that. This is usually linked to the partitioner. Now, the partition disk is very important to pay very close attention to this stage. The installer can guide you through partitioning a disk using different standard schemes, or if you prefer, you can do it manually. With guided partitioning, you will still have a chance later to review and customize the results. If you choose guided partitioning for your entire disk, you will be asked which disk to be used. Now, if the guided is what you want to use, perhaps you don't want to install any other thing, you don't want to have any other alterations, you could go for the first option. Alright, now the second one says guided. Alright, the third one is the guided as well, using the entire disk, but personally I prefer the manual. Alright, because it gives me the opportunity to actually customize and know or probably space out certain partitions for certain tasks and all that. Okay, so here we have the partition disk. This is the overview of the current configured partitions and mount points. Select a partition to modify its settings file, system mount point, and so on and so forth. A free space to create partitions. Now, it is very important for you to know about these things and pay very close attention, as we separate these drives into primary and logical drives. Kali usually requires 3 major drives. The first one is the primary, the second one is the logical, general logical or extended, then the third one is the logical for swap purposes. But in the instance now, we're going to delete these. Yes, we're going to delete them and then reconfigure them so that you get to understand how this is being done. So let's start from the primary drive. I'm going to delete it. Yeah, that's delete. As you can see, it's now having a free space. Then we move to the second partition, we delete it as well. You can see the space has increased. Then we move to the third one, we delete. You can see that we have a completely free space now, 320. All the drives has been deleted. So now we go into the create. We click on create. Here you enter in gigabyte, whatever space you want. Make sure you put the number and you space, and then you put GB. Okay, for this instance now I'm going to use 300 gigabytes. So GB stands for gigabyte. Primary, yeah, it's beginning. Yes. Now this very area, you need to pay very close attention to this. The journalist sees as options. Usually when you come here, the first option is what I use when I'm working. You can actually use any other file system, but the ext4 journalist system is my option. The other option that is popular is the btrfs journalist file system for the operating system. So now, okay, now that particular option now is indicating that I should format it, because you have the option of not formatting it or formatting it. So I want to format it because that is just what I want to choose to do. If you feel you want to do something else, you could change it. Now the mount point is very important. For most Linux systems, you need to specify it. That is the root file system, where you have the operating system files, just like you have your Windows in Microsoft and all that. So that is what this stands for. Now leave these on default. You don't need to bother yourself with this. For the label, of course, you can enter the appropriate name to identify this particular partition. Okay, I'm giving this primary partition as a label. Now for the reserved box, you could leave the typical using bootable flag. Of course you should ensure that the bootable flag should be on, yes, because this is the root that houses the necessary thing. So once you're done, you click on the last option, the done setting up the partition, then move to the next area. You can see you still have 20 GB of space, free space there for use. So we create a new partition again using the same process we used for the first instance. Apologies for this blood skin. I'm using a mobile phone to record this, and eventually this is going to clear up. So of course this is primary, this is logical. The option there is logical, not primary, because the first one is. Now we repeat the same process here. We choose this, yes, we leave this on default. It's basically the same thing we did previously. There's really not much of a difference between what we did for the primary and what we're trying to do for the logical. Now the label can be different because this is logical. The first one was primary, and this is now a logical, or extending the primary logical partition. Okay, so once you're done, you click on done setting up partition. It's very, very important you do that. Once you click on done setting up, you can see now that the setting has been adjusted. The space has been adjusted. You see, this is home now. The first one was root. This particular logical drive is the home, all right, for the file system, what we're actually using it for. The partition, the home directory. The home directory belongs to the logical, while the first one was the root. Okay, the /. This one is /home. All right. Now this is the last space, still logical. You can see that. Now we're going to make some changes here. I'm going to call this. This is not actually. This specific area is not to be tampered with. Okay, it's going to be used as the swap area. Okay, we're using it as a swap area now instead of the home. Now look at what we've done so far. We've created the primary as 300 GB, and then the primary extended drive, the logical drive, as 10.1 GB. This is the home directory. Then the last one is the extended. It should be the swap. Okay, and the swap gives us the final setting of the partition that we are aiming for or aiming at. Now you can see there that beneath there you have the 30.8 GB USB SanDisk. This is the USB we are using for the installation, so we don't have to tamper with that. As soon as we are okay with all this, all we need to do is finish the partition and write changes to disk. You can undo the changes if you want, but since this is okay, we move on, we finish. Yeah, now this is the active summary. Alright, and it's bringing this to attention that if you continue, the changes listed below will be written to disks. Otherwise, you should be able to make further changes manually. Warning: this will destroy all the data on any partitions you have removed, as well as on the partitions that are going to be formatted. The partition tables of the following devices are changed: SCSI 000 SDA. As you can see, you have partition 1, which is the primary drive, okay, ext4, that's hash number 1. Then hash 5 is the primary extended drive, logical as well, that serves as the home. While this one, the last one is actually the swap. That swap, it's not, when you get to that area, ensure that the swap is selected and not the file system, because the file system is where you determine the swap. That's the partition 6, which is of course the swap area. Most Linux always requires some sort of swap area for extra space, activity, and so on and so forth. Now you need to refer to the first part, because the first part of this video I did give an extended explanation about these procedures. So now the installation has started, and quickly we're going to see how it runs. For a very fast computer, this should take like an hour or less, but with a minimal system, that shouldn't take much time to do if your system is fast. Now let me bring your attention to this. This is the display. Usually when you get to this area, it's going to ask you what you want to do with your display manager. These display managers are needed to help manage drivers and the likes, and the most popular that is being used, that I use, is the Light DM. As you can see, it's saying configuring a GDM3. Display manager is a program that provides graphical modeling capabilities for the X Windows system. Only one display manager can manage a given X server, but multiple display manager packages are installed. Please select which display manager should run by default. Multiple display managers can run simultaneously if they are configured to manage different servers. To achieve this, configure the display managers accordingly. Edit each of their init scripts in the etc initd and disable the check for default display manager. Just know that at this stage you choose the middle, which is the Light DM. So with that done, wait for the installation to proceed. Now you're seeing that it's coming closer to the grub. Now Linux has a sort of grub manager. that houses certain things, allows multiple operating systems to work. The Grub bootloader is very useful. It runs through all the variants of Linux. And, it helps to allow you to operate. It act like a buffer between two disparate operating systems. That's just what I want you to know about that for now. And it's a very useful utility that Linux houses. So when you get here, ensure that you select the yes option. The yes option is going to allow the group to be loaded in your primary drive, and here is the primary drive in question. Okay, you can see here that we have the SanDisk, which of course is what is being used for the installation. Then you have the Dev SDA, the Hitachi hard drive, and the serial number. So it's that's the place that we want group to be installed in. And let me also state here that if you intend to run a dual boot system, it's always better to install another operating system first, maybe your Mac OS or your Microsoft operating system, before you install your Linux system. Probably I'll have to do another tutorial on how to create a dual boot system for Linux and of course other operating system. But know that you need to select the hard drive, which in this case is the Hitachi with the HDS serial number. So it's installing the bootloader now. Now, prior to this, the genome, you are going to see an option for the genome. I need to refer to the first video, where I gave a very detailed, selection of the genome. Because while immediately after your partition, you're going to see the option for your genome. The genome houses the desktop apps and all that. Ensure you select all those options given and check boxes. So we're finally moving to the end of the installation procedure, and this wraps up the installation. And after the installation, of course, you see that the operating system is going to ask you to restart and then remove your installation media so that you can actually see what is going on, or how the Kali Linux is run for the first time. Okay, so you can see that the installation is complete now. So it's time to boot to your new system, and it says that ensure that you remove the installation media so that you can boot into the new system rather than restarting the installation. So all you have to do here is to click on the continue button. Now you just saw the grub there. The grub is what gives you this. Okay, now this is the work of the grub. If there was an extra operating system on this computer, you're going to see it listed here. Okay, otherwise you're just going to see the default Linux operating system. Okay, so this is the username. When you enter your username, the one you created while the installation was going on, and of course you enter the password, relevant password as it. Now this is the desktop. You can see the desktop. How this Linux is the Linux, the Kali Linux, as of April the 17th, or rather April of 2023. All right. So the particular file, the particular kernel that was published on the official Kali Linux operating system, is what we are seeing right now. Now you can see that when you click on the file, at your left hand pane you see computer, the user, and some other icons, just as you have in your Microsoft system or the Mac OS. Now these are things you can easily run. The first command you run at the command prompt should be uname. This should give you the exact name. Well, hostname CTL should give you, yes, this. It should give you this on the screen where you see the local host icon name, the laptop, the boot ID, then especially the kernel. The kernel gives you the particular, because the kernel is the core. Okay, the Linux kernel being run is the machine, is the main engine room that powers Linux. So if you have a lower version other than the one published on the official website, that means you need to run an update. Okay, so this is how it looks like. This is the real Linux. You can see the list of programs at the top pane. So many programs are there for you to explore. Kali is actually known for security based analysis, intrusion detection, high level testing, cyber security testing, and all that. Okay, so here you can see that again. Now you can see the command there. The first command there is uname. The second one is the host name CTL, the one that brings out the details about the computer and the exact Linux kernel running on the system. All right. Then at the third command there, you can see sudo apt get updates -y. That will give you, once you're connected, it's going to update the system.